Some people will balk when you explain to them that Israel was involved in 9/11 and you talk about this. They'll say, "Oh no, Israel wouldn't do that." You know, there's many Christian Zionists in this country who say, "No, Israel's our strategic ally." I would just point out they should read some history. In 1967, in the Six-Day War, on June 8th, Israeli military, Air Force, and Navy viciously attacked a ship called the USS Liberty, which was an unarmed American spy ship under the NSA off the coast of Egypt in international waters. And it was flying an oversized American flag, and the Israeli pilots were flying over the ship. They'd been buzzing over it all morning long before the attack began. And then the attack began. They hit it with a torpedo in the middle, killing 34 Americans, and they bombed it, dropped napalm. And there was recently, or a couple years ago, the transcripts came out between the pilots and ground control. And the pilots' ground control in Tel Aviv said, "Identify the plane, identify the ship." And the planes called back and said, it's American, it's American. And then the command came from Tel Aviv, "Sink the ship, no survivors." So they intended to put this ship on the bottom of the ocean, but it was one of those old World War II Liberty hull ships, which have good compartments underneath, and it didn't go down. The torpedo went right in the middle of the ship and killed all of the guys down below with the headphones on that were interpreting what the signal's intelligence. Killed all of them, but the ship didn't sink. But when the Americans tried to put life rafts into the water, the Israeli gunboats were machine gunning the life rafts. They had no intention. They intended the ship to go down the bottom, and had it gone to the bottom, it would have been blamed on Egypt. And this would have brought us very close to a nuclear war, but that's another story. This was Lyndon Johnson was in the White House, and he was very, very pro-Israel. And so twice, American planes were launched from aircraft carriers off the coast of Greece to rescue the ship. And twice, McNamara and Johnson called the planes back. He said, I will not embarrass an ally. So 171 Americans were brutally wounded on the ship and 34 killed. And that little piece of history is not generally well known in America because it's not taught. It's simply suppressed. So 7 countries in 5 years. This is General Wesley Clark, and he went to the Pentagon 10 days after 9/11. He said, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. And he said, one of the generals called me in and said, "Sir, we've made the decision we're going to war with Iraq." And he said, "We're going to war with Iraq? Why?" "I don't know," he said. He said, I came back a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" He said, "Sir, it's much worse than that. We're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq, then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran." And he said this in March 2007 in several speeches. Now, you can see from that shopping list, 5 of those nations have already been done. Lebanon is already pretty much broken up along ethnic lines. And really the only one that's left is Iran. But this is the shopping list. Now, whose shopping list is this? What American interest is it? Wesley Clark was confused. What American interest is it in overthrowing these 7 Middle Eastern countries? Well, it's an Israeli plan, and it's called the Yinon Plan, named after the guy who wrote it, Oded Yinon. Oded Yinon published this in an Israeli magazine called Kivunim in 1982 in February. And Kivunim is the journal for Judaism and Zionism. It's published in Jerusalem by the World Zionist Organization. That's the very top of the Zionist enterprise. Like I said, that's the state of Israel. Zionism is the ideology upon which Israel is based. And the Yinon Plan, according to the man who translated Israel Shahak, a professor of chemistry, he said it represents the accurate and detailed plan of the present Zionist regime, the Likud, for the Middle East, which is based on the division of the whole area into small states and the dissolution of all existing Arab states. So what it means is something called Balkanization. You break up a country, a big country, and you reduce it to ethnic components, like what we've done in Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia was a large socialist state, in southeastern Europe, and now today it's, I think, 7 little statelets. Iraq is de facto 3 states today. Kurdistan in the north, the ISIS area, Sunni area in the west, and the Shiite area in the south. Syria is very fragmented. Whether it stays that way or not, we'll see. Tripoli, Libya has been fractured into 2 or 3 pieces. Sudan is now de facto or de jure 2 countries, South Sudan and Sudan. Somalia is chaos. Yemen is chaos. The whole Middle East is chaotic. We don't see it that much because our media is more interested in manipulating our point of view than informing us of what's happening. But a day doesn't go by that some terrible atrocity doesn't happen in one of those countries. So this is the Yinon plan. And thanks to Israel Shahak, a personal friend of mine, in 1982 he translated this document into English so that we would understand what the Zionist policy or plan was for the region. So after 9/11, the Israeli connection, of course, became more pronounced. And here you have at the White House, you have at the Pentagon, you have something called the Defense Policy Board. And the Defense Policy Board is a bunch of civilians, basically at that time neocons, Jewish neocons, who made policy for the Pentagon. And the head guy was Deputy Defense Minister Secretary Wolfowitz at the head of the table here. And across the table, smiling with the mustache, that's Rabbi Dov Zakheim. And he was the comptroller at the Pentagon. You might recall he was the man who said the day before, he was the comptroller of the funds. The day before 9/11, Rumsfeld told the public that there's missing $2.3 trillion, unaccountable, in the defense budget. That was on September 10th, 2001. He announced that. And sitting next to the Israeli man there, the Israeli man is the guy with the red beret. He's the Shaul Mofaz, an Iranian Jewish guy. And he was chief of staff. He's Israeli chief of staff. And here he is sharing notes, explaining to his Zionist colleagues at the Defense Department what they should do. And the man with something in his eye, that's Douglas Feith. Douglas Feith, his father was in the Irgun. He's an American, but his dad was in the Irgun. And because his father was an Israeli, he is also then an Israeli as well.
So a lot of people may not be aware of that scenario. I'm sure a lot of people are, but I'm sure there's some who aren't as well. And that was in 1967. That was a false flag attack that was carried out against the United States by Israel. And it shows the sort of mentality they have. It shows what they're prepared to do. And they've been doing this for years and years, folks. But the point is, Israel is not a friend of the United States. It's ridiculous that so many dual citizens have infiltrated into the US government and put themselves in positions of power where they're able to control the foreign policies of the US government and essentially get the US to fight Israel's war against the Arabs for them, which is what all this has been about. 9/11, all of this was about putting the East against the West. Destroy Amalek. They want to put the Muslims and the Christians against each other, have them kill each other, so then they can come in and just mop up what's left. This is the way they work. And it's very, very demonstrable by what's going on in Gaza Strip, which is absolutely outrageous, folks. I mean, there's a 4-day ceasefire at the moment, 4-day humanitarian ceasefire, and there's been a prisoner exchange, which is all very strange. The whole thing's very strange. But they intend to go back. I mean, because they've had a ceasefire now doesn't mean they intend to stop the killing. They intend to go back in and keep killing the people of Gaza Strip.
If, by any miracle, all of the hostages are released over the next few days, will you still continue on with the war in Gaza after that?
I'm not aware of any change in our operational directive. I don't think there's a decision not to dismantle and destroy Hamas as a governing authority.
Yeah, they make it perfectly clear, folks, of what their plan is. And this is ethnic cleansing. Make no mistake about it, this is ethnic cleansing. They even say it's ethnic cleansing. The IDF soldiers themselves say that is their mandate. Their mandate is to go in there to occupy, to cleanse, and to settle.
גדוד 9208 בפיקודו של ישראל בן פזי לא יעצור, ימשיך עד שנשלים את המשימה שקיבלנו. כובשים, מגרשים ומתיישבים. כובשים ומגרשים ומתיישבים. שמעת ביבי? כובשים ומגרשים ומתיישבים. יושב ראש הקהילה של בית חנון.
That's ethnic cleansing, folks. Going into newly invaded land and building settlements straight away. This is ethnic cleansing. This is a war crime. You're not allowed to do this sort of stuff, yet Israel is doing it anyway. You'll notice in Gaza Strip they've put up Israeli flags every few meters. Yeah, they intend to ethnically cleanse Gaza Strip. They intend to make Gaza Strip part of Israel. And they've just been going hell for leather, folks. There's snipers in there taking out people in safe areas. There's just really bad stuff going on. 900 bloodlines now have been completely erased from existence. That's 900 families. Every single member of that family is now gone. That bloodline has now disappeared from the earth. This is ethnic cleansing, folks. Make no mistake about it. There was an entire Palestinian family buried the other day while they were sleeping. Israelis came along, bombed their house, buried the entire family. And everything is a target, folks. Everything is a target. You look at the way they're going through town, you see videos of the Israeli soldiers, the brave Israeli soldiers battling Hamas. They're basically walking through bombed out streets, shooting anything that moves. That's their mandate, folks. Kill everything that moves. Shooting Palestinian school desks. Shooting toilet blocks. Yeah, this really makes a lot of sense, folks. And of course, the whole tunnel system under Al-Shifa. We told you, I showed you the article showing that Israel actually built that tunnel system below Al-Shifa. And now we've had Edward Barak, former Prime Minister, also go on record saying, yes, Israel built that tunnel system themselves.
Can I just start by asking you what is your view of whether your government, your military, has done a good enough job of proving their claim that there was a major command center and bunker under Al-Shifa?
It's already known for many years that they have in the bunkers that originally was built by Israeli constructors underneath Shifa, were used as a command post of the Hamas and a kind of a junction of several tunnels, part of the system. I don't know to say to what extent it is a major. It's probably not the only kind of command post. Several others are under other hospitals or in other sensitive places, but it's for sure had been used by Hamas even during this conflict.
Well, when you say it was built by Israeli engineers, did you misspeak?
No, decades ago we were running the place So we held them. It was decades, many decades ago, probably 4 decades ago, that we helped them to build these bunkers in order to enable more space for the operation of the hospital within the very limited size of this compound.
Okay. All right. Well, that's sort of thrown me a little bit. So these were there for a long, long time, but you're claiming, or they're claiming, that they're used as a major command center. Anyway, the fact of the matter is that as yet, they have not shown conclusive proof of that.
Yeah, this whole Al Shifa thing has been such a scam, folks. It really has. You know, like I pointed out to you before, you know, spending 2 days, taking 2 days to come and tell us about it, after claiming, oh, there's all these tunnels down there, and then it takes them 2 or 3 days before they show us the tunnels, after they carried in all these boxes of medical supplies. Medical supplies. I mean, crazy. Like I pointed out to you before, boxes are never labelled medical supplies. And again, what are you going to be doing in Israel, where they speak Hebrew, or in Gaza, where they speak Arabic, and suddenly you've got all these boxes of medical supplies with medical supplies written on every side of the box like a sticker, written in English. It's like Acme Medical Supplies, and you're going to have Wile E. Coyote carrying them in. Even CNN is now saying that they suspect that they arranged the weapons before they brought the news crew in. Oh, you think so? Even the tunnels that they show you, they don't actually show you going down into the tunnels. They just show you a tunnel system. Could be anywhere. Could be in frickin' Sweden. You don't know where the tunnel system is. It could be a sewer in Belgrade. I mean, who knows where these tunnel systems are? They don't show you anything, folks. They just expect you to believe it, and no, you should never believe anything that you hear from the State of Israel. Everything is deceptive. This is the way they work, folks. By way of deception, thou shalt do war. The Mossad motto. Never forget that. Crazy stuff, folks. And Gaza is literally in ruins, and it's just getting worse and worse by the day. There's no safe areas anymore. There's one video I saw of a press reporter going down the street with a couple of children saying, well, this all used to be restaurants. Now it's just bombed out rubble.
Hi from Nuseirat refugee camp in the middle area. It's the first day of pausing the fire, not ceasing fire. It's the first day. And I want to show you how the people went out to the markets to check if there's something to buy, something to eat. And also people went out to visit their loved ones, and yeah, check how it looks like. This refugee camp got struck like dozens of times by the Israeli warplanes and artillery. So, and I'm not having the best experience in riding the donkeys, but pretty cool. Alhamdulillah, salama.
See, this is what they're doing to Gaza Strip, folks. And again, there's snipers in this area as well that are taking out people. People that are going north to try to find their relatives, their dead relatives who've been killed in the north, are getting shot at by Israeli snipers, even if they venture further north than Khan Yunis.
Large numbers of them were trying to make their way from the south to the north to try to reconnect with families. Many of them had been split because of the war going on and the bombing, and a lot of families were split up. We know of at least one mother who our cameraman spoke to, who said there was nothing was going to stop her from trying to reconnect with her children who had been trapped in the north side of Gaza. But as they made their way towards an area where the Israeli military had set up position with snipers, our cameraman spoke very articulately and graphically and captured the images on his camera of the Israeli snipers opening fire, firing into the crowd, which was filled with men, but also women and children, families. A number of people you can see on the pictures that he's captured were injured. At least 2 have been killed. We don't know how many went on to die in hospital.
Pretty shocking stuff, folks. Mass grave at Al Shifa as well. The Israelis say these are terrorists that we killed. According to the Palestinians, no, these are doctors, nurses and patients that were killed. They arrested the head doctor at Al-Shifa as well. They said he was collaborating with Hamas. I mean, it's unreal. You know, Hamas is the government of Gaza and they're worried about finding weapons and stuff. Well, hang on, the Israeli government's got weapons as well. You've got a military force, they've got weapons. If we were to go into Israel and we were to find the IDF weapons cache, will we suddenly call Israel a terrorist state and all these people terrorists? Because that's what they're doing with Hamas. Anybody who fights back against Israeli corruption, anybody who fights back against Israel invading their country, anybody who questions Israel at all is labelled as a terrorist. It's absolutely incredible. You've got people in Israel as well saying anybody who says anything bad about a Jew should die.
Vorrei dire che noi in Israele, almeno la popolazione, siamo non interessati in tutti questi discorsi razionali palestinesi e tutti che anche ho sentito qua. Per noi c'è uno scopo: distruggere Gaza, distruggere questo male assoluto, distruggere questo, perché non c'è la possibilità dopo l'olocausto, non c'è la possibilità dopo l'olocausto che saranno e ragazze ebrei in così situazione come che era 80 anni fa. Vorrei dirti così. Sono stanco di questi discorsi, vorrei dirti così.
Cioè?
Dopo il 7 ottobre non sarà più la possibilità di ogni persona nel mondo che minaccia un ebreo, ogni persona che minaccia un ebreo con uccidere un ebreo deve morire.
Yeah, wonderful mentality, folks. Anybody who threatens a Jew must die. Absolutely incredible. And through all this, through all the bodies and through all the stuff we're seeing in Gaza, ask yourself, where are the Hamas combatants? Why aren't we seeing any military? We're seeing bodies of civilians, we're seeing bodies of children, we're seeing bodies of families, bodies of women, bodies of all sorts of people. Literally the whole esplanade in Gaza, C Street in Gaza, is literally littered with dead civilians murdered by Israeli terrorists.
جثث لمواطنين متواجدة على طريق البحر، نحتاج إلى إسعاف توجه للمكان. هاي هي جثث تم استهدافهم وهم ينزحون من مدينة غزة باتجاه المناطق الجنوبية. الجثث مر عليها وقت، هي دخلت في طور التحلل الآن. الجثث دخلت في طور التحلل. المكان هذا خطر جدا، يجب أن نخرج المكان هذا الآن.
Yeah, and where are all the Hamas bodies? Where's all the militants? According to official Israeli figures, they claim that they've killed almost or possibly even up to 1,000 Hamas militants in all this. 1,000 Hamas militants, you reckon? You've been bombing Gaza for 7 weeks, nearly 8 weeks now. You've killed 40 or 50,000 people by official figures. I would say the real figure is probably twice that, maybe even more. You've probably already killed a third or half the population of the Gaza Strip with these indiscriminate bombing campaigns. But so, okay, you've killed 1,000 militants, you say. Well, you've killed 40,000 civilians to kill 1,000 militants. And why are they militants? Because they're defending themselves against Israeli aggression? And Israeli aggression is through the roof, and it's always been there, folks. Look what they're doing in West Bank.
סתכל על עצמך,
איך לוקחים מהילדים? איך לוקחים מהילדים הקטנים? איך לוקחים מהילדים? קטנים בגלל מתנחלים מחוות מעון. בגלל מתנחלים מחוות מעון.
רק ילדים, מה זה? תתביישו! אתה לא מתבייש, אתה לא מתבייש! אתה לא מתבייש!
איך עוצרים ילדים? בגלל כתפו כעוב.
חיילים פושעים!
חייל!
תתביישו! תתבייש! יא פושע! תתבייש!
West Bank is being decimated through all this as well. Even something like 150 people shot by snipers. The other day there was a man standing there with his child, just minding his own business, a civilian, unarmed, standing on the street, gets taken out by an Israeli sniper.
مضافا الى الخطر على مستوى الراي العام الدولي وتهشيم صور اسرائيل التي حاولت ان تثنيها على مدار الوقود، كل هذه الامور كان بالامكان تجنبها في الاعتراض الى الحرب، وبالتالي نريد ايضا ان يقدم بنيامين نتنياهو على انه يعني خطا من هذه الحرب من اجل اهداف مرتبطه ببنيامين نتنياهو ومن اجل اهداف مرتبطه بحادثه الحكومه. في النقطه التي اشرت اليها ايضا.
Right in front of his child like that, shot in the head by an Israeli sniper for no reason whatsoever, except that he's a Palestinian. That's his only crime, is being a Palestinian. And even with this prisoner exchange, I just wonder about it all, folks. I wonder about the whole thing. Hamas say they don't have any prisoners. They say they're not holding any hostages. I wonder how much of this is theatre, how much of this has been made up by Israel. All these pictures we see of these hostages everywhere, children, it's always children, you notice that? They said there was 129 hostages, and then it was 100 and whatever, then it was 290, and then like the figure keeps changing all the time. And we're told it's grandmothers, it's this, it's that. Most of the posters that you see all over the place are children. I think this is to try to pull on your heartstrings to cover up the fact that they are literally killing tens of thousands of children in Gaza. They're trying to get you to have sympathy for Israeli children, who I would suggest half of them don't even exist. I would say there's probably no prisoners as well. Perhaps they took some and put them in their own tunnels. Who knows, folks? Who knows? You can't tell who these Hamas operatives are because they're always wearing balaclavas and things. And you notice when the prisoner exchange was happening, you got these Hamas fighters there with the prisoners, and their uniforms are pristine, not one speck of dust on their black balaclavas or anything. I mean, Gaza's rubble, bear in mind. Gaza's just completely rubble. And these guys are coming out perfectly clean, handing over their prisoners. I mean, are these really Hamas or are these Israelis? Is this whole thing being contrived? Who knows, folks? Who knows? Remember in V for Vendetta, when V got whoever the girl was, what was her name? Evie, Natalie Portman, and locked her away in a room and interrogated her and basically broke her until her spirit was ready to face death, and then he let her go. The whole thing was a ploy. Is that what's happening in Gaza? Is that what's happening with Israel? Are they simply locking people away and making them think that they're being imprisoned by Hamas when they're not? Or is it just all theatre? I just don't know what to believe from Israel anymore, folks. I just don't believe a word they say. I mean, it's just such a ridiculous state, and it's told so many lies that it's hard to know what to believe. It really is. And, you know, and what they're doing, it cannot be denied that this is genocide. As I've said, I mean, they've mentioned it themselves. Have a look at some of the things that people have said, some of the leaders and some of the political figures in Israel, what they've said about Gaza, and it shows you what the mentality of these people is. Yeah, that's just the Israeli way, folks. And, you know, the death chants that we hear from Israelis. Crazy people. And that song that I played you on the last report, the school children singing the song about how they are going to be the victory generation because they are going to be the generation that annihilates the people in Gaza. And in that song, there was a significant part in that song where they said 1 year from now, things will be okay, we'll return and we'll plough our fields. 1 year from now. Yeah, they intend to draw this out for a year. That's the way Israelis work, folks. They like to draw out the torture as long as they can. They'll keep these people in Gaza hanging on by a thread for as long as they can, and they will drain every last piece of energy they can from these people. And also by drawing it out over a year, basically people lose steam. All the protests and all this stuff, people lose steam, and Israel ends up getting away with its actions. The protests around the world have been phenomenal. There's been so many of them. And you notice how people are trying to portray these protests as jihadis. That's the big thing. There's so much propaganda on Twitter. There's so much coming out from Hasbara on Twitter that are really trying to push this. With what's going on in Ireland at the moment, there was the stabbing in Ireland. I'm sure many people are aware of it. There was an Algerian guy who stabbed a woman and apparently 2 children, and there's just been outrageous riots across Dublin. because of this stabbing. They were burning buses, burning cars. They burnt down the Holiday Inn where all the migrants are staying. This is so silly, folks. You don't want to be destroying your own city, destroying your own buildings. It's all very well saying the Holiday Inn is housing migrants and we don't want them there, but you don't burn it down. If you're going to burn anything down, go burn down the government building. Go and chase the politicians out of town, the politicians who allowed all this to happen. But by going out and burning buses and burning cars and destroying buildings, you're destroying your own infrastructure in your own city, which is exactly what the politicians want you to do. You've got to really look at how this is being played, folks. This whole migrant invasion into Europe is the Kalergi plan. This is a Jewish plan to genocide the people of Europe via mass migration, and they want civil unrest. And they want the people against each other, when really it should be the people united against the politicians who are doing all this. This is the way they're going to play it, folks. And that's why they're pushing it as jihadists. Like I said, there's so many memes coming out about what's going on in Ireland, and they're trying to say all of these protests are all pro-Hamas supporters. These are jihadis. Look at how many of them are through Europe. Oh my God, we didn't realize there'd been this big Muslim infiltration into Europe. That's what they're trying to push it as.
عيفيك البسالي والكفاح والعين سهراني.
Most of these migrants aren't even Muslims. They're Africans, they're Middle Eastern, whatever. They're not Muslims. They really want you to play this as a religious war. Same as what they're trying to do with Gaza. They're trying to say the people in Gaza hate us because we're Jews. No, they don't. They hate you because of your way you've oppressed them for the last 75 years. Wouldn't matter whether you're Jews, Christians, wouldn't matter whether you're atheists, wouldn't matter what you are. The way you're repressing and oppressing and destroying these people warrants some sort of response, which is what they're doing and what they're saying. And it's Israel is trying to push this as a religious war, the war against the Jews and the Christians and the Muslims and all this stuff. You know, the whole war against the Arab world, 9/11, everything that they've done, even looking at the Arab world, looking at where it is situated. You look at how many countries have got sort of Arab leanings towards them, and look where Israel is in the middle of it, right there in the dead center of it, simply to create instability and to destroy the Arab world. That's the plan. They want the Muslims and the Christians fighting each other, and then they can go in and mop up the rest, like I said. And that's why they're trying to push this as jihadists all around the world. They're not jihadists. They're simply people who are standing against genocide. But as I said, they're really pushing this genocide. It's really going hell for leather, both in Gaza and West Bank. They're destroying homes in West Bank at every opportunity. As I showed you, shooting people in the street and trying to turn this into a world war in any way they can. Even like I said before, they're claiming that if they don't destroy all of Hamas, then they're going to be responsible for creating an Iranian-backed terrorist state in Gaza Strip. They keep claiming that it's all backed by Iran. When the whole thing's ridiculous. It's freaking ridiculous, folks. This whole concept of even Hamas invading Israel is completely ridiculous. Hang gliders and paragliders and all this sort of crap. Where did they do their paraglider training? Where did they even get the paragliders? How did any of this happen? It's not possible for this to have happened. There's been so many reports coming out saying that 70 to 80% of the people who were killed in the kibbutz and in that initial attack on October 7th were killed by Israeli forces. Of course, Benjamin Netanyahu is saying, no, this is all misinformation. And there's not going to be any investigation into what happened on October 7th until the war is over. And again, the war's not going to be over for a year. So there's not going to be any investigation. A lot of it has been done for him to try to cover his ass as well, because he's a very unpopular president. The people don't like him. The Jewish people don't like him. I'm sure they don't like him at the moment because of the amount of flack the Jewish people are getting around the world, and rightly so. Because, I mean, if you're supporting this, you're a sociopath, you're a psychopath. Anybody who's supporting Israel through this is mentally defective, folks, honestly. There's no justification for this at all. Even if you don't like Muslims, even if you don't like jihadis, even if you believe all their propaganda, there is still no justification for killing this amount of children, for wiping out this many bloodlines, and for doing this much damage to the world. There's no justification for it at all. Now, Israel's a shocking apartheid state, folks.
מפה, מנון, רק יהודים. קפטן, החליט.
And it's showing us exactly what it is and what it intends to do to the rest of the world as well. As I've said, folks, the way of Palestine will be the way of the world. Never forget that our police have all gone and trained with the Israelis, and they've learnt these same techniques, and they will apply them to the rest of the world. They will apply them to our own countries. Look at our police. They're militarized. You look at a normal average policeman today and put them next to an Israeli soldier, and the only thing that's different is the color of the uniform. Everything else is the same, the body armor, the Kevlar, the weapons, and the techniques that they use. These are all military techniques that are being used against civilians. And they really want to break down our societies, folks. So we've got to be careful how we're being played through all this. We really do. There's so much I wanted to say. I actually recorded this yesterday and it had no audio again. I've been having the most ridiculous problems with audio. Like, you know, you sit down and do an hour-long video and then load it onto the computer and find that there's no audio track to it. And I had a very deep conversation yesterday. I can't even remember half of what I said because I go off on these tangents and it's all kind of ad lib. But I did record a great video yesterday, and unfortunately I can't share it with you because it didn't have any audio. It happens a lot. But what's going on with our societies, even the whole concept of the Muslim rape gangs, I keep hearing about this, how Sweden is the rape capital of the world, and all these rapes are being carried out by Muslim rape gangs. Even the Algerian guy who stabbed the woman and the 2 children, the Israeli people on social media are saying this man was an Algerian Muslim pro-Palestinian. Well, how do they know that? What, did he have a Quran on him, and was he waving a Palestinian flag when he stabbed this woman? This is the way they're trying to push it. Like I said, they want it to be a religious war. And I've said before, if someone's raping someone, he's not a Muslim. If someone's raping someone, they're not a Christian. They may claim they are, but they're not. You know, and this is Israel's attempt to turn it into a religious war. So they keep calling them Muslim rape gangs rather than immigrant rape gangs. And I said to someone said to me, well, you know, these Muslims, they're raping all these people. And I said, well, it's because they come from third world countries. They've been fed porn all their lives, and they've been told that if they go to Europe, there's all these hot women who like rough sex. And he said, well, you know, if that was true, 95% of men would be rapists. No, it's different, folks. It's different. When you come from a country like Somalia and you're living in some little tin shed and you're getting fed all this bullshit about, you know, hot Ukrainian women and rah-rah-rah, whatever, you get this attitude of what Europe's like. You get promised this incredible life in Europe. You go there and it's just a shithole. You're locked in a building. You don't get any of the things they told you were going to get. You end up with a chip on your shoulder. You end up wanting to just go out and do something violent. And they're trained to do that way. This is what porn does to people. Porn's insidious, folks. It really is. And it may be okay in the Western world. When you look at it, you've got access to women, you can go to brothels, you've got whatever. I mean, people are so repressed sexually that they want to find ways to express themselves because they're not in touch with their natural sexuality. So, you know, it's no surprise this happens. But you think about it, if you're someone from a downtrodden third world country and you've been fed this shit, this is what happens. And ask yourself, why does a rabbi own Pornhub? Pornhub, this is owned by a Jewish rabbi, not just a Jew, but a rabbi. Why would a rabbi own Pornhub? What is the purpose of this? What are the plans that this rabbi has for the goyim that he would want to push porn on them? Why is porn so rampant on the internet? It's the most prolific thing anywhere on the internet is porn. It's so easy to find porn. You can't find so much stuff, but you can find any type of porn, and it's all free. Why do you think that is, folks? Why do you think that is? And it's about the destruction of society, the destruction of Western values, the destruction of Western consciousness, folks. That's what all of it's about. Destruction of Gaza. You know, they're still mocking people in Gaza as well. The Israelis are still mocking the destruction and the genocide of Gaza.
Does, and I will show you the massive destruction that happened to the Zahra city in the middle of the Strait. More than 14 residential towers got destroyed by the Israeli airstrikes. Imagine how many people have been homeless and lost their places. Like Gaza need a new Nakba.
It's just a horribly apartheid state, folks. Even that song that I was saying that the children were singing when they say we're going to have this war going for a year, you know, it's called the friendship song. The friendship song. You're singing about annihilating people, and it's called the friendship song. Because the IDF are their dear friends for saving their lives by annihilating all the defenseless children of Gaza Strip. Absolutely incredible, folks, the mindset of these people. But like I said, they have no intention of stopping this genocide. They're just going to keep it going. And that's always been the plan. And bear in mind, as has been pointed out before, even when the initial invasion apparently happened, apparently there were no deaths until the IDF arrived and started shooting everybody, started shelling homes, started creating all the damage. Israel wants the body count up, because that way they can pretend they're outraged and they can go in and they can commit genocide. And the most childish comments on social media, we bring them home, oh my God, you want us to back down? No, we won't. We're going to save our people. We want them all back now. It's just such bullshit, folks. It's like childish schoolyard banter, and it's all contrived. And they're trying to portray this righteous indignation and this righteous anger and all sorts of stuff, and it isn't. It's just pure genocide that they intend to bring to the rest of the world, as they've been doing, I mean, with everything. And what's going on in Ireland at the moment, I mean, we're going to see this in other countries as well, as people start to expel these migrants and things get more and more crazy. And it has been getting crazy, just nuts. I mean, if you want to fix the migrant situation, what you've got to do, folks, is pull your country out of the EU straight away. Get out of the EU. You don't even need to fill out any forms. You don't need any formal whatever. Just say, no, we're gone now. We're closing our borders and we're sending all the migrants home. Actually, we'll send them all to your place. Find the leaders of the EU. I'm sure they all own big properties. Find all these heads of the EU, and they've probably got nice farmlands and stuff. Put all the immigrants on their properties and let them deal with it. That would be a good way to do things. I can't see that happening, but it would be great. It's like what they did in the United States when they got a whole busload of immigrants and they took them all to Martha's Vineyard. And people said, hey, hang on a minute, you can't do this. Well, yeah, it's the same thing. That's what they should do with the leaders of the European Union. But you need to get all your countries out of the EU, and you need to close your borders. You need to send all of the migrants back to where they came from. And you need to hold your leaders to account. That's what I mean. Like, even in Ireland, there's no point destroying the infrastructure of Ireland. There's no point burning buildings down. You need to, if you're going to burn anything down, burn down the government buildings and hold these people to account. Now, the world's been overrun by criminals, folks, and Exhibit A, the Earth. I mean, just looking at the place is a good indication of what's really going on here. These people are all working together. They're working to undermine all of our countries. I mean, the head of Ireland, he's saying 94% of people in Ireland are white, and he's saying we need more diversity in government. We need more people from other races and other cultures in our government. Why? It's a white culture. What is wrong with having a white culture? What's wrong with white people having their countries? What's wrong with Europe remaining the way Europe's always been? The only reason it's changed is because of the Jewish Collective Plan. And they even admit that. Remember, what was her name? Barbara Lerner, saying that Europe has to become multicultural or it won't survive.
I think there's a resurgence of anti-Semitism because at this point in time, Europe has not yet learned how to be multicultural. And I think we're going to be part of the throes of that transformation, which must take place. Europe is not going to be the monolithic societies that they once were in the last century. Jews are going to be at the center of that. It's a huge transformation for Europe to make. They are now going into a multicultural mode, and Jews will be resented because of our leading role. But without that leading role and without that transformation, Europe will not survive.
Yeah, well, it won't survive Barbara Lerner. It won't survive becoming multicultural. And looking at it now, it's in rapid decline. And it's happening in all Western countries, folks. And it's happening by design. They want to remove white people. And by even saying that, you get called racist. You know, someone got called racist the other day because they put up a sign saying, "Stop white hatred." And that was considered hate speech. You put up a sign saying, "Stop black hatred," and they will praise you for it. Put up a sign saying, "Stop Asian hatred," they'll praise you for it. Put up a sign saying, "Stop white hatred," and you get called a racist for saying it. Should be a bit of an indication of what's going on there, folks, and who's behind all of this. Yeah, a lot of people dying from the jab as well, folks. People having cardiac arrest, around 12 cardiac arrests a week, young, healthy people. And this is going on while all this Gaza stuff's going on, while Europe's collapsing, while there's riots going on in the streets. We've still got all of this jab damage going on. We've still got the smart grid rolling out all over the world that they're trying to. Anyway, 5G towers going up everywhere, destroying forests, decimating everywhere they can to put up their 5G towers. There was a solar farm the other day. It's like 140,000 solar panels or something, destroyed in 2 minutes by a hailstorm. It shows you just how stupid everything they're doing is, folks. But of course they'll blame you for it. It's your fault that all this happened because you used too many plastic bags. Crazy folks, absolutely nuts. I mean, there's so much other stuff going on, apart from the war in Gaza, apart from this depopulation. But I think that this is important. It's important to keep focus on it because, I mean, look what's going on in Ireland. Look what's going on in Greece. Look what's going on in Sweden. Look what was going on in Lampedusa, the island where all the migrants came a few weeks ago. This is an ongoing thing, and it's all going together. You notice Russia's pulled back from Ukraine now, and Ukraine is being flooded with Jews because they've killed so many people in Ukraine now. It's all about depopulation. People thinking Putin's the good guy. No, they're all working together, folks. Same as Trump. Trump's absolutely part of it. If Trump gets elected as president, one of the first things he's going to do is go to war with Iran. And as I showed you in the start, this is one of the plans. If he even starts threatening Iran, you know he's part of the club. And he is part of the club, folks. As I said before, Iran hasn't attacked another country in 270 years. Why would you want to go to war with Iran? Why is it a threat to anybody? What, because it lives a different type of culture to what we do in the West? Well, it actually used to be quite Western. If you look at pictures of Iran from 1954, 1950s, people were wearing mini skirts and dressing like Western people, had Western values. It was just the same as any other country. Then the United States and England got involved and decided they would impose the Shah and turn it into a military dictatorship, which they did, which freaked all the people out. They had 25 years of brutality from the Shah. And so when the Ayatollah came back in and said, see what happens when you get rid of religion, they brought the Ayatollah back in and they let it become a Muslim country. All done by design. All done by design by the West because they went in and interfered because they wanted to control the oil, which is all bullshit anyway. This is the only reason they even need Israel in the Middle East is to control the Middle East, to control the oil flow out of the Middle East. America's got so much oil, it doesn't even need Middle Eastern oil. Got these huge oil fields in Alaska that haven't even been tapped. Australia's got like so many dozens of oil fields up near Roma in Queensland, oil wells that are capped that have never had a drop taken out of them. We don't need Middle Eastern oil. Oil should be the cheapest fuel on earth. It could burn cleanly. We don't need to be doing any of this. The whole thing is contrived. And it's all contrived to bring about this clash of civilizations, which is all done by design. Now you've got to wonder how we've let it get this far, really. I mean, and looking at history, I don't like to persecute Jews. I really don't, folks. I mean, I'm someone who's said for years, you can't hate them all because there's good people in there, and there is. There's still good people within the Jewish culture. But you've got to wonder why they call themselves Jews. I mean, if you hate what the Jews are doing, why do you still call yourself a Jew? Because it's a religion. It's not a race, it's a religion. You could choose another faith, if you even need a faith. But why can't they just put all this shit down? Jews, Muslims, Christians, Hindus all fighting each other? What the fuck is wrong with you people? We've got this little book that tells you you've got this connection to God, and so you're going to kill everybody who's got a different book. What the fuck is wrong with you people? Honestly. You've got a connection to God anyway. You don't need the book. Throw the books away. Get rid of the books. The books are what has bent your mind and have caused you to fight with the other guy. So everybody's against each other. Everybody believes their way is the only way because it says so in the book. It's freaking outrageous. It's outrageous, folks, and it's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. Just put all of this shit down, folks, and realize that all this stuff has been put there to get you to have this clash of civilizations, and so that the overlords can come out on top. Like I said, they'll get you all to kill each other, and then I'll come in and mop up the rest. We could put it all down, folks. And like I said, these people have been, you know, I try not to judge them all and put them all together. But it's interesting, these people have been kicked out of 1,030 countries over the last 2,000 years. Why do you think that is, folks? There's an interesting little video that came out, Jewish expulsions. It's about 5 minutes. I'll play it for you here. And just check this out.
This is a list of 1,030 kingdoms, city-states, and cities from which Jews have been expelled between 1200 BC in Egypt and 2014 in San Juan La Laguana, Guatemala. Rabbis have recently warned Elon Musk that his remarks about Jews propagating white hate is the type of anti-Semitism that leads to massacres. They must be thinking of Gaza. Why don't the rabbis urge Jews to change their behavior instead of blaming the fact that the world hates them for their depraved conduct, attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors? Why are Jews the only people on the face of the earth who never do anything wrong? Why do they always blame their indefensible behavior on everyone else? It's like an Irishman who gets kicked out of 109 pubs in Dublin. Is it the publicans conspiring against one man, or is his behavior consistently intolerable? You figure it out, because 109 is the usual number popularly quoted for Jewish expulsions. It's in fact much worse. It's 1,030 and probably more. This begs the question, why? The full detailed explanation is too long for a short video. In summary, it has to do with the Jewish supremacist predatory nature and chauvinism of Jews to circle their wagons to form insular inbred communities in their host kingdoms, city-states, and countries when nations and empires arose. Jews have traditionally practiced sacrifice, both human and animal. If you think that's in the past, you'd better brush up on the third temple they desperately want to build on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. The purpose is to recommence sacrifices for atonement and return of their Messiah. Jews engage in predator usury. They practice sharp business practices forgiven by their Kol Nidri prayer, which is actually a declaration of personal atonement. Jews recite it, which gives them absolution for all their transgressions. Swindles and crimes committed against non-Jews or Gentiles, and Goyim as they like to call them. The Talmud refers to Gentiles as no better than soulless animals that deserve no consideration. If you're alarmed by that, look it up. The Talmud is the rabbis interpreting the mind of God. Jewish law. It's replete with long tracts of venom and odium for Gentiles or non-Jews. It teaches Jewish supremacy, which has morphed into Zionism, which is political Talmud without the religious baggage. In short, Jews used, abused, corrupted, and influence peddled everywhere they went. Shakespeare's play The Merchant of Venice depicts the odious Jew as the character of Shylock. He's become a trope for Jewish money lending. America is the latest society to be corrupted by Jewish influences, finance, culture, and values. Abortion is a Jewish value. It's why they defend it so vociferously. America now has a Zionist-occupied government where less than 2% of the American population, which are Jewish, occupy 85% of senior cabinet and secretary positions in government. It has nothing to do with aptitude or intelligence, and everything to do with nepotism and Jews looking out for other Jews to dominate communities, commerce, academia, and entertainment. When this is pointed out to Jews, they deny, and invoke charges of anti-Semitism and the Holocaust to neutralize Jewish critics skeptics who point out the obvious. The standard Jewish comeback is that it's all a coincidence, and correlation does not mean causation. Even if you point out that the Ivy League schools largely have Jewish presidents, chancellors, or principals, and therefore the majority of admissions are Jewish, they deny it. It's gaslighting. All in your anti-Semitic imagination, despite the facts. It's the ire of communities that eventually have enough of predatory Jewish nature and kick them out. Every major Jewish holiday is about killing and the slaughter of non-Jews. They celebrate death, whereas Christians and even Muslims celebrate life. And herein is the number one reason why Jews have been expelled over and over for over 2,000 years. The relentless slaughter of civilians in Gaza is Jewish natural behavior. Vengeance is a Jewish trait. The Talmud is full of it. This time the world will tire of the Jewish menace and seek a permanent solution to the Jewish problem in a world that is now inexorably linked by instant communications, world trade, and reserve currencies. The Jews need to be very careful about the conduct of their brethren, as history tells us it doesn't go well for Jews when they engage in unrestrained hubris in their host nations, including the stolen state of Palestine, which they've renamed as Israel since 1948. It's time for Jews to reflect. If not, they have to kill the rest of the human race or learn to live civilly and cooperatively with Gentiles, because as less than 1% of the world's population, their chance of survival is not good if they continue to behave like the synagogue of Satan, as Jesus Christ named them.
Yeah, it kind of explains things, folks, and it shows what the mentality is of these people. They have this bloodlust, this incredible bloodlust. As I said before, every single Jewish holiday, every major Jewish holiday, is a celebration of death. It's a celebration of a massacre of non-Jews. Not just death, not just killing, not just winning a battle, but an absolute massacre of non-Jews, which is what they're doing in Gaza now. I've got reports as well say that they are turning schools into detention and torture centres in Gaza now as well. This is the freaky thing about Israel. All of the accusations that it makes against Hamas, raping women, torturing children, burning babies, cutting women's breasts off, hacking open pregnant women and ripping the fetuses out, all this sort of stuff. Hamas wouldn't do this. These are things the Palestinians wouldn't do, but they are things the Israelis would do. That's the problem. That's just something that kind of unnerved me and upset me right at the beginning of this, was the amount of accusations the Israelis were putting against the Arabs, because I know that by making these accusations, these are actually confessions. These are what they intend to do to the Palestinian people, because they literally revel in torture and bloodshed. It's horrible, folks. It's really horrible. They keep children in cages. They torture them all the time. Some of the reports I've had coming out of West Bank over the last 10 years have been really, really shocking. Stuff that I haven't shared with people. How they keep children in cages. They train their own children to torture these Palestinian children. They view them as less than animals. And it's absolutely shocking. And that's what they're doing in Gaza Strip. You know, every accusation that an Israeli puts forth against someone else is actually a confession. And that's something that people need to consider when looking at Israel and when looking at what's going on in Gaza Strip, folks. But like I said, they have no intention of stopping the genocide. They're torturing people in every way they can when they catch them. There was one guy, I mean, I showed you how they had people, they were urinating on them, driving over Palestinian bodies. They had naked people that they were dragging around in the dirt. There's one Palestinian guy, Palestinian civilian. They had him blindfolded. They were bashing him and beating him and forcing him to sing Israeli songs, just for the fun of it.
עכשיו אני אומר לך ואתה עונה לי, הכל לטובה. בסדר? תגיד, הכל לטובה? כן. יש עניין שנתהפך. הכל לטובה. יש עניין שנתהפך. הכל לטובה. יש עניין שנתהפך. הכל לטובה. הכל לטובה. יפה. יש עניין שנתהפך. הכל לטובה. לה 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 לה.
There was when that Israeli threw a stun grenade into prayer time in the mosque. Lots of stuff they do to torture and torment these people, folks. And like I said, where are all the Hamas fighters in all of this? Where are all the Hamas fighters in all these bodies that we're seeing? Where are the militants? Where's the army? If this is a war, then there would be two armies. Where's the other army? There isn't another army. This is about ethnic cleansing. It's about killing civilians. That's what it's been all about right since the beginning, folks. You know, it's a really dangerous time that we're in. Interesting time. Also a time of great opportunity. You know, if people can see this, I mean, maybe I just have too much faith in the human race. Maybe I'm a hopeless optimist, but I can still see a way through this. I mean, as I've said before, I can't see a way of stopping the breakdown of the system. The system is going to implode because of the amount of damage people are doing, the amount of businesses that have been shut down. So many businesses are gone now, right through San Francisco, through Los Angeles, Seattle, lots of places, stores closed, just whole blocks of people gone, whole blocks of shops. There's so much violence on the street. The gang violence is outrageous. The beatings are outrageous. The way people are going in and just looting stores, going in and just destroying stuff. You know, black privilege, they can go in and they can take anything they want and everything's good. You know, these stores will close soon and our society is basically going to shut down soon. And that's really going to put people against each other, with everybody blaming the other for the breakdown of society when it's all been contrived. And again, you've got these certain factions, Hasbro factions online, trying to push this all as religious wars, claiming all these Palestinian protests are jihadis and you know, everything that's happening. So, I mean, I can't see a way of getting past that, but I still can see a light at the end of the tunnel. I can see a time that humankind will rise through this. And if we can see that all this is contrived and be supportive of those around us and realise it's actually a war of the people against the governments. And this is what I said back in 2008 when I said World War III has already started. It's a war of depopulation that's being waged by the governments of the world against the people of the world. I said this back in 2008. And I said one of the main tools they're going to use is food as a weapon and the control of the flow of resources, which is why they've created all this international interdependency. Because then all they have to do is break down the supply chains and everything falls apart. And that's the way it's going to be. Like I've said before, we're all truckatarians, folks. We get everything that we do comes from trucks. The computer that I'm on, the camera that I'm using, the food that I eat, the car that people drive, everything arrived on trucks. And once these trucks stop flowing because we've broken down the infrastructure within our cities, and then we're going to be in the next level situation that they want us in. And then it's going to be dog eat dog. And at that time, we've really got to be prepared for what's coming. We've really got to get some focus and direct our attention towards the people that have created this situation, not towards each other. You know, we could have our phoenix rise from the ashes through this, folks. We really do. It's a time of great opportunity. The whole veil is falling down for everything. It's all falling down. So we have a way of fixing it. But if we don't, if we go down the path that they're leading us down and we turn it into violence and civil unrest and destroying our own communities the way they want us to, then it's going to go where they want it to go. And it's important that we don't do that. Yeah, it's been crazy doing this for so long, 16 years, and seeing all this coming. It's crazy to be actually living it right now. You know, with everything that's happening, you don't really expect to see it happening in your lifetime. You know, it's kind of like a spy novel we've been looking at for so many years and watching the secret workings of the system. But to see it all unfolding in your lifetime, it's crazy. And the world is so different now to what it was in 2019. It's incredible, isn't it, when you look back? And it's never going to go back to that. It can't. It can't. It will never go back to what it was. Even if we were to take down all our governments and everything, it's not going to go back to what it was. It's changing. But, you know, isn't it a time for growth? Isn't it a time for us to just grow up now and become adults? Isn't it a time that we can do that? I mean, even through all this, people are sort of freaking out at all this stuff going on and they're still waiting for the governments to fix it, you know. No, the government's the one who created it all. They're not going to fix it. They're waiting to see if you will. And most people simply don't have the backbone to do it. But we have to. And all we have to do is live in unity. All we have to do is respect each other. Like I said, even with the Jewish problem, with what Israel's doing, you don't have to hate them all. But those people within that system who call themselves Jews, like I said, why do you call yourselves Jews? Why don't you stop being a Jew and become a human being instead. You don't need to follow that faith. You don't need to do what it says in the book. You could just do what your heart tells you. You could respect people. You could become a valuable part of humanity by not adhering to any of the doctrines in any of these books. I think that's what's caused so many of the problems. That's why I don't do religion at all, folks. I've always said religion is demented. All religion is demented. And if you have a good connection to God, you don't need a book, you don't need a religion. If you're someone who follows one of these faiths, well, Jesus had no religion. He had a direct connection to God. I would say Muhammad had the same. I would say Krishna had the same. All of these people from all these different faiths and all these different belief systems, really look at what your Saviour within that system said and perhaps follow their path. I think that would be more advisable than following the path that the church constructed around their teachings. Just listen to their teachings, you know. Anyway, folks, I think I'm going to leave it there for now. I've forgotten so much of what I wanted to say. Like, I talked for about an hour and a half yesterday. I've spoken for about 40 minutes now. I haven't even said half of what I wanted to say, but I don't even know what that was. It gets very frustrating doing these talks and losing the audio on it all the time. And it makes me wonder whether I should even continue doing these videos. Maybe this is a sign from higher powers that it's time to stop. There's been a lot of fake accounts around as well. Again, folks, apparently someone's selling tickets for a webinar that I'm doing. No, I'm not doing any webinar. Don't buy any tickets from anyone selling you tickets for a webinar. When have you ever seen me do a webinar? You know, any of these fake accounts that approach you and start talking about money, start talking about cash, ask you if you've taken all your cash out of the bank and have you invested in crypto and do you want tickets for a webinar and all. This is not me. None of these people are me. If I'm ever doing a webinar or I'm doing a conference or anything, you will hear me announce it on one of these videos. You won't have a private message arrive from me on Instagram or anything like that. And if you're wondering what my actual Instagram and TikTok and Twitter accounts are, just check the links below the video. You can just click plus more beneath this video and you'll see the links to all my social media, or you can go to my website, thecrowhouse.com, and you can click on the links from there. All other links are fake accounts. Don't have anything to do with these people. Also, I will be speaking at an Acapulco in February. A lot of people are going to be coming to that. If you would like to get a ticket to an Acapulco, you can use the coupon EGAN, my last name, get yourself a 10% discount on that. You'll find a link below. It's going to be great too, folks, even with Acapulco in its kind of blown up state. At least it's interesting scenery for people. But the Secret Garden is going to be working and everything's going to be fine and it's going to be good. It's going to be the 10th anniversary of an Acapulco, so I look forward to seeing you there. I'll still be in town. I might be going back and forth between now and then and doing some other shit, but I intend to be here for the entire time of the conference and probably a little bit after it as well. Then after that, I believe in March, I'll be speaking a few gigs in Croatia. So if you're in Croatia, you can come and check me out there. That'll be fun. I'm going to go visit some friends in Europe while I can still travel. Don't know how long that's going to be open, folks. I mean, Europe is fast imploding. So it's going to be good to get over there and catch up with a few people before all doorways and windows close. But yeah, that's about all I think that I've got to say. I'm going to remain focused on Gaza for, you know, it's going to be part of every show until this conflict is over, folks. I do have friends in there. And, you know, if you were my friend and you were in there, I'd be speaking out for you as well. And I'm not going to let this slide. I mean, this is a huge opportunity because Israel is revealing itself to the world. You always got to wonder whether it's been done deliberately. When you look at Albert Pike and some of the things he said about Israel, Henry Kissinger even said Israel, you know, in 10 years from now, Israel will cease to exist. And he said that around about 12 years ago. So you've got to wonder, and I've often said that the people who run Israel, they're not even Jews, they're not even, you know, Israelis. I showed you last week, they all come from Europe. So none of these people care about Israel at all. And I've said that many times. The people who run Israel don't give a damn about the Jews. They're quite happy for Israel to implode. Israel is simply a mechanism that they're using to destabilize the world. And they didn't manage to kickstart World War III with Ukraine. So they're trying to do it with Gaza, trying to do it with Palestine, which is why, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons they used Palestine, because they knew they'd get so many protests around the world, because this is the greatest moral dilemma we face. This is children. This is a defenseless population, and of course, you're going to have a lot of people standing up against it. But now they're trying to portray them all as jihadis and say this is a big Muslim infiltration into Europe, when it's not. This is all the people that the Israelis sent in there themselves, and they're not Muslims, they're just migrants. So we've really got to be careful of how this is being played and see how we are being played and see the opportunities it provides for us to reclaim this world from the parasites who are currently controlling it. And it's time we did, folks. And even with the whole white genocide thing that I've been saying, it's time to realise that this is a reality. And I'm not racist at all. I have friends of all races. I have black friends, I have Asian friends, I have Middle Eastern friends, I have white friends. I have friends of all races. I don't have a racist bone in my body. But by the same token, I can completely acknowledge the fact that my race, the white race, is being systematically stomped out of existence. This is being done very deliberately, and we need to acknowledge this fact, and saying that is not racist, folks. It's time white people had a little bit of pride in being white. You know, black people have plenty of pride in being black. Asian people, Japanese people, all people have pride in their culture, have pride in their race. Chinese people, everybody does. But white people aren't allowed to. And I think it's time we identified that fact. And I think it's time we showed ourselves a little respect. I really do. And I think we need to respect ourselves. All races need to have pride in who they are. And that pride need not turn into jealousy or hatred towards other races. You know, you can be proud to be black and still not hate white people. You can be proud to be white but still not hate black people. We've really got to put things in perspective, folks, and see that what we're dealing with here is an evolution in human spirit and an opportunity for us to all grow up and become adults. And I think it's high time we did. If we don't, well, the world's going to go where they want it to go. And I would suggest that's not going to be a very good place. So it's time we took the matter in hand, folks, and it's time we paid attention. It's time we grew up. It's time we stood strong with each other and realised that we don't need the system. The system is a fiction, and those who are running the system are the ones who've contrived all this. And as soon as we say no, then the whole thing's going to stop. Say no and stand your ground and stand united with everybody around you. Put all your stuff down, put all your racial stuff down, put all your religious stuff down. Stand as one people against one very evil force which is attempting to control the people. And we'll find a way out of this. Find out who's shaking the jar, folks. Like I said last week, you know, you put the black ants and the red ants in the jar. Yeah, find out who's shaking the jar, folks. And we know who's shaking the jar, and it's time we turn to face that. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. Thank you for joining me on this report, folks. I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Sorry this was so discombobulated, but that's just the way it is. And I'll be back in some form of stability soon, and actually be back on my big computer. I'll get that back up and running, and I'll be able to do this properly. Might even be able to get this audio worked out and actually do some walk and talks again. That would be good as well. But anyway, folks, I'll leave it there for now. I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Please take very good care until then. And again, thank you to all the people who sent me so many kind emails. Thank you to anybody who's ever made a contribution. Thank you to anybody on the front line speaking out. Thank you to all those people who are standing strong through all this, and you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. That's what's important. I'll look forward to speaking to you soon, folks. Take good care. Until then, in Lakesh.
Well, we all suspected it, but the news has finally broke. It was Israel who killed their own civilians on October 7th. And your proof. Haaretz newspaper, the Israeli newspaper, has just confirmed that it was the IDF who killed the civilians at the music festival. Direct quotes from the Air Force pilots, how they failed to defend and they feel very bad. Quotes from Kibbutz Be'eri residents confirming that the Israeli IDF shelled and killed 112 civilians and residents. Confirmed IDF shot Israelis, mistaking them as Hamas fighters. No wonder why they don't want the hostages back. The hostages know what happened. No wonder they're not in there getting the hostages back. Literally, They know exactly what happened. They know that Israel killed their own people. They know it wasn't Hamas. I mean, it makes so much more sense now. They killed their own people.